Hi, my dear friends. Some words of Torah for Parshat VaEschanan, Shabbos Nachamu. There's a video on YouTube that's been viewed millions of times. It's called Cosmic Eye. It starts, and I'll include that in the comments, I'll include a link. It starts with a person lying face up on some grass, and then it zooms out above her, going up in the sky by factors of 10. It starts with 1 kilometer above the person, then 10 kilometers, then pulling out to 100 kilometers, and so on, until it zooms out to the outer reaches of the universe at 10 billion light years away. The video stops, then zooms inward, again by factors of 10, retracing its steps until we get back to the person lying on the grass. But then it zooms inward further by factors of 10 right into the person's eye. First at a magnification of 10 times, then 100 times, then 1,000 times, and so on, until reaching the smallest known subatomic particles in that person's body, known as quarks, at a magnification down to the width of 1 femtometer. The objective of this Cosmic Eye video is to share what an amazingly vast universe we have, both on the macroscopic and microscopic levels. But it also reminds us that perspective is everything. When you see a human being, you can either consider all of the myriad components that make up that person, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual. You can spend literally a lifetime studying just one human being and her complexity as a single miraculous organism. And you can also look at a human being as being just a tiny creature on a tiny planet, in a tiny solar system, in a tiny galaxy, in a tiny corner of this vast universe. The issue of perspective is what I believe is being conveyed at the beginning of Parshat VaEschanan in an interchange between Moshe and God. We know the story. Moshe petitioned Hashem because he wanted to be able to enter the land of Eretz Yisrael. And Hashem denied Moshe's petition and instead told him that he could only see the land from the Transjordan because Yehoshua, and not he, would lead the people into the promised land. But if we read Moshe's words carefully, we note that what he was asking was, Eberana ve'er'eh et ha'aretz hatova asher be'ever hayarden. Let me pass over so that I can see the good land on the other side of the Jordan. Hahar hatov hazeh v'halavanon, this really good mountain and the Lebanon. Why was Moshe asking to see the land so that and pass over the Jordan in order to see the land? If his whole desire was merely to see, why couldn't he just as easily see Eretz Yisrael from where he was in the Transjordan? You know, I know that when a child brings a new toy to school and the other child says, "Let me see it," he's not asking to actually see it, but really wants to hold it in his hands and play with it. But is that what Moshe was really asking? Let me see it? I don't think so. Moshe knew that he could very well see Eretz Yisrael from where he was, seeing a beautiful panorama of all of the promised land. But he wanted a different perspective. He didn't just want to see Eretz Yisrael in all its totality as a homeland for the Jewish people and the ultimate goal of his life's project. He also wanted to see it up close, and specifically wanted to see Ha'aretz HaTova, the particularly good parts of Eretz Yisrael, Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, and so forth, places that would represent an infusion of holiness into his people. Moshe wanted to see how Eretz Yisrael would have a transformative effect on the people. He wanted to come close to the holy places of Eretz Yisrael and see for himself how they change the individual. That's not something that can be seen from a distance. It can only be viewed from up close. We can now understand Hashem's response to Moshe. In saying no, Hashem told him, Ale Rosh HaPisga, go up to the high point, this mountain that I'm going to take you up on, and Visa Einecha, Yama, Vitsafona, Vitemana, Umizracha, Ure Ve'enecha. Go out and look, do a scan, west, north, southeast. See this with your eyes because you will not pass over the Jordan. Hashem was telling Moshe that the very same factors that prevented him from leading Bnei Yisrael into the land would also prevent him from appreciating how these special places in the land would positively affect the people. Your eyes, Moshe, only appreciate the land from far away. You won't appreciate the land from up close. To you, because of your very lofty and otherworldly status, the land may seem like a place that is filled with strife, contradictions, and pettiness. If I show you Jerusalem, you'll just compare it to the glorious encampment in the desert and you'll be disappointed. If I show you the temple, you'll be thinking of the overwhelming holiness of the Mishkan and you'll be let down. You won't get it, and so it serves you no benefit to see it up close. With this eye on perspective, we look back on a very similar interchange that God had with Avraham Avinu back in the book of Bereshit, when Hashem first promised him that he would inherit the land of Israel. In Parshat Lech Lecha, after Avram and Lot part ways, the Torah states that Hashem instructed Avram, almost the same words, Sana einecha urei min hamakom asher ata sham. Lift up your eyes and look from where you are currently standing. Tzafona vanegba vakedma vayama. Take a look to the north, south, east, and west. Again, a panoramic view. And then Hashem instructed Avram just a couple of psukim later, Kum hitalech ba'aretz le'orka u'lerachba. Arise and walk through the land and breadth of the land, through the length and breadth of the land, for I am giving it to you. Hashem had already promised Avram that he was going to give him the land after taking this panoramic view. So why was it necessary for Avram to walk through the land only to receive the same promise that the land would be given to him? I believe that Hashem was instructing Avraham that in order for him to truly own the land, he needed to have a global panoramic view of Eretz Yisrael, but also an up-close view of every square inch of the land. When you buy a house, it's not just enough to see it from far away. You've got to walk through each room, inspect every nook and cranny in order to know the exact nature and specialness of what you are receiving. Hashem wanted Avram, the progenitor of the chosen people, to not only know that his children would have a homeland, but also the transformative effect that this land would have on his children. The only way Avram could discern this would be by seeing Eretz Yisrael up close, seeing everyday life and the nature of each village, city, vineyard, river, and hill, thereby realizing what a truly special place this homeland was. Perspective is also important when viewing a person. We may see a person behaving in a way that we don't approve of, and we might be quick to judge the individual. But our conclusion may be based on just seeing the person in front of us and not zooming out sufficiently to understand the context and backdrop of this person's behavior. Or we may be looking at him or her from too far away and not zooming in sufficiently to see their thoughts and the very stuff that makes them who they are. Perhaps this is what Hillel meant when he said in Pirkei Avot, Al tadun et chavercha ad shetagia limakomo. Do not judge your friend until you reach his place. Make sure you are looking at them with sufficient closeness so that you can see the totality of that individual, even on the microscopic level, in order to fairly judge them. It's no coincidence that this is Shabbat Nachamu. Just as we can zoom in and zoom out of space, we can do the very same thing in the fourth dimension, time. Part of the consolation that we read in Isaiah, in our Haftorah, is that unlike man, Hashem has the ability to have a panoramic view of Jewish history, past, present, and future. In his eyes, collapse, failure, victory, and rebuilding are all taking place at the same time. And indeed, all individual events, good and bad, contribute to a larger whole that is beautiful and necessary. We read in the Haftorah, Hayoshev al chug haaretz v'yoshveha kachagavim, that God sits in a high orbit above the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers. Hashem takes a global view of the world and sees how the ultimate plan is coming to fruition, even amidst the suffering of a pandemic. And then the prophet concludes his message by asking all of us to lift our eyes to the heaven and note that although Hashem is high on his perch and we are all tiny, nonetheless, he does not discount the vast importance of every individual. So umarom einechem uru, the very same phrase, lift up your eyes and see who created these things, these luminaries in the sky. He produces each celestial host by number, calling each one by name. Out of his abundant power and strength, ish lo nedar, not one individual is ever forgotten. Hashem zooms out and then zooms in back again. He sees the ultimate purpose of existence and also sees how each of us individually is an olam maleh, a microcosm of an entire universe. If we can learn to do the same, not only will we be comforted, but we will also be part of the ultimate rebuilding of the temple. May we see it b'mehera b'yameinu, amen. Here's wishing you a beautiful Shabbat. Shabbat shalom, dear friends. May it truly be a Shabbos of comfort.